In these days leading up to the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, I thought I would read for you a few of the lines from the Crowds of Lourdes. It's a book by J.K. Heismans. And he describes here what it was like in Lourdes back at the turn of the century, that is the 19th into the 20th century. And because nowadays the ideas of miracles, special cures, is so little known, I thought maybe it would be interesting to browse a bit this book and to hear how things were back in Lourdes at that time. So here we're talking in the early 1900s. The time for the great international pilgrimages has come. The town is assailed from every quarter and grows giddy with excitement. Pilgrims from Lorraine, from Champagne, from Provence, from Normandy, and from the Rouergue and Berry are here. An army of Belgians landed yesterday, invades the esplanade, and lines the streets. This morning we are expecting the trains from Brittany, along with fresh squadrons of Belgians and Dutchmen. Lourdes is already full to bursting within its indestructible belt of mountains. It has stopped raining. A sort of violet powder falls from the sky with an implacable purity on the mountain range, which begins to show up in outline. The great and little Gare are gilding with the sunlight their cindery carapace of boulders, and a few clinging stretches of pasture bedaub their sides with dashes of green. Something is slowly ascending a furrow hollowed out in one of their slopes. It looks like a white worm creeping upwards. It is the funicular railway, climbing sometimes in an open daylight, sometimes through dark tunnels to the top. The sun seems to be winnowing abroad well-being and sifting joy over the valley, through which resounds a hunting horn, used to rouse attention by the ragman whose cart appears now on the road in a distance. I go down to be present at the arrival of the faithful from Finistère. The streets of the old town and the bridge are overflowing. You have to elbow your way through. The lazy flock of Bretons goes round and round in its own track, just marking time where it is, and is driven back by the priests, who harry it as if they were sheepdogs. But the shops full of pious trinkets hypnotize the women. They have to be dragged away by the arm or pushed in the back to get them to move on. Half awake and bewildered, they gaze as if they were coming out of a dream, dragging along with them huge baskets and cans, and most of them walk arm in arm, scarcely speaking, with minds benumbed, ruminating like cattle on what none can tell. The fact is that they are utterly knocked up by the long nights on the train and feel quite adrift. In any case, they impart a dash of color to the monotonous grays and blacks of the crowd drawn from their other provinces. The men have stuck to their velvet ribboned hats, their vests and waistcoats of royal blue or episcopal violet, laced with canary yellow embroideries and dotted with buttons like little brass bells. But only from the waist upward have they retained the tints and fashions of their native soil. Underneath, they are just like anyone else, of a squalid ugliness which clashes with the apparent newness up above. In this pack from Armorica, which worms its way through the streets and over the bridge, cripples and maimed people, deformed children with stunted limbs, old men with huge pear-shaped goiters, old women hobbling on T-shaped crutches, blind folk with pupils like the white of an egg. All these are surrounded and supervised by the Sisters of the Holy Ghost, whose habit is apparently made of unbleached canvas, with just a touch of black at the tip of their hoods, and tinges with a fleeting smile of whiteness the somber darkness of clothes and dresses. The priests with the features of farmers or fishermen get impatient at being unable to hasten the progress of their flock, but their efforts at remonstrance are in vain. The women are mirthful, and one of them stops in the middle of the bridge on the footway to have her boots cleaned, and has a dispute with the bootblack, who asks her to pay a penny, for she says she only owes him a halfpenny, because her feet are small. At last the procession reaches the bronze statue of St. Michael, waltzing round in an ungainly fashion upon the prostrate body of something like a lawyer disguised as a devil, and passes by the Calvary stand at the beginning of the esplanade, an offering by this same Brittany to Our Lady of Lourdes. The priest at the head of the cortege halts and turns back, and the herd follows his example. He raises his arm, and the hymn begins, while the procession goes on. And that is where we'll stop for today.